Hi, so my name's Julie Blint. I'm an EMCC accredited coach and facilitator.
Hey, I'm Louise Marshall. I am a trainee coach and also a business owner. I am self-employed, working as a holistic therapist from home.
Things That We Were Told podcast, where we talk about the things that we were told and how those messages might be holding us back. This podcast won't try to educate you or hand you the secrets of success. It's a conversation, one that we hope sparks your own thoughts and questions.
So, Louise, tell us a little bit about your business.
So I am now self-employed 2 years. It's been a while getting to this point. I knew that I wanted to be self-employed for a long time. I was previously in education and became unhappy in the job. And when I say to people that I'm a holistic therapist now, they think it's bizarre actually, because like the change seems so different. But what I've related it to is that I needed to do something caring. So then I just went off and did a training course and thought this could be my avenue to me doing something for me. Set up my premises at the bottom of the garden, which is a log cabin where I'm sat now. And I started building business. When I first started, I was pretty scared and thought, how on earth am I going to manage? But I am, and I think I'm just focused on making it work. I think that's the main thing. I mean, you're fully self-employed, right?
Yeah, I'm fully self-employed as well. In fact, that's one of the sort of reasons why I wanted to do a podcast like this, because knowing you, and also I have some other friends who are trying to make a living out of their passion. So in that way, it's like not following the stereotypical life path that we're all taught we should want in school, which is, go to school, try and get a good job to earn like a stable living, to buy a house, to have children, to work until you're almost dead, and then retire and travel. There are many of us out there who don't find that type of life path appealing, and instead have a passion or something that they really want to do. But it's often really difficult for people to follow those paths when the world around them is telling them something else. And plus the fact it can be like really risky. It takes a lot of courage. So I would like to sort of give encouragement to people who are feeling a little bit lost about what to do with their lives and how best to survive. And I think it's really important for people not to be pressured into family expectations or societal expectations, or that sort of idea of what they should be doing, finding a career in a big company that will give them a stable income, but meanwhile their sort of souls are dying because it's not fulfilling.
It's so interesting what you said about being in education, being in school, and what you're told, because as you were saying that, I literally just was thinking to myself, and nobody ever suggested when I was at school that I could be my own boss. Never, ever. It was always go get a job. I never ever at the age of 16 contemplated and went, oh, I could do something that I want to do. I could create my own. Never suggested it to me. I don't know why. Maybe is it a generation thing? Is that a time thing? I don't know. Because perhaps people are having those conversations more now. I know that I'm having them more with my kids, but that's probably because of my experience. I don't know what your experience was like. Did you suggest it to you?
No one suggested it to me. And I was thinking, though, not just about generational, but could it have something to do with being a woman as well? Because I remember when I was that age, there was a lot of pressure to have children. A lot of my female classmates, it wasn't about going to university. And it wasn't about getting a good job. It was about becoming a mother. I don't know what you think about that.
Actually, it's probably because of my circumstance. Actually, I was never going to go to university. I didn't get any grades at school. I had this conversation, which is really interesting that you've spoke about children. Had this conversation with my eldest son and his girlfriend. They were just speaking openly about they're not really interested at the minute about kids. And my son asked me the question, like, how did you know you wanted kids? And I was like, do you know what? Actually, I can answer that. I was more concerned about not having children. So my main concern was, what if I can't have kids? I just knew I wanted to have a family. I don't know if that's because I didn't have any big dreams back then, or I thought that, there wasn't opportunity. I'm not sure, like, that's me just thinking out loud. Because I literally had to find something very quick to do to put pennies into the bank, which was hairdressing, which was just a suggestion from my mum, because I could quickly go and learn that. I didn't need any of the grades at that time to be hairdressing. So, yeah, family was at the forefront of my mind, which is interesting. I've never really thought too deeply about it.
I think what you just said is really interesting. A couple of things. First thing I just want to say, it's interesting that you said you never thought about going to university, because my life ambition was to go to university. Like, coming from a single parent family where in sociology I was told that my expectations were to live in a council house, be a teenage mother, work in a supermarket, and probably enjoy some recreational drugs now and again. And I remember saying, that's not true. I'm as intelligent as anyone else here. I deserve what other people are going to get given. I'm going to go to university. But the point was where society was telling me what I was going to amount to in life, or statistically what would happen. And I was like, no. But I also knew in that class that, I was no less intelligent. And so that gave me that fighting instinct. Like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you wrong. But the other point in all of this, is I find fascinating, is that thing, all you knew is you wanted kids.
Yeah.
I didn't. All I knew is I wanted to go to university, and you didn't. And yet, so the other funny thing I'll tell the audience about me and Louise, but she's Scottish and I'm Scottish as well. My family is Scottish, and they actually started off in the same area of Scotland, and Louise is born literally 1 month before me. So if our families had stayed in that town and that area, we could have been classmates. And then we've both come such a long way. I'm actually in Italy at the moment, where I have lived for years now. And before I was in Spain, where I lived for years in the south of Spain, also lived in Hungary and in England as well. So Louise, where are you and why are you there?
I'm currently in England. I'm no longer in Scotland. You can probably tell the accent's softened a little bit, and maybe I'm a bit of a fake Scottish person now. Because I feel like you have to do that, otherwise you spend your whole time just explaining what words mean. Like, if I spoke with a broad Scottish accent, I would literally just have very blank stares, I think, a lot of the time. And even my kids, sometimes if I say a word, they're like, that's not even a word, Mum. It is in Scotland. So yeah, I'm in England. The reason I'm in England is because I met my husband on a holiday, Cabos actually. Wouldn't recommend it, but anyway. Maybe it's better now. It wasn't great, and the only good thing that came of it was meeting my husband. And one of his, actually, it was a very quick relationship, how it formed. He proposed after 5 months, because we were back and forward from Scotland to England.
You're listening to this, do not follow Louise's example.
No, I'm not giving any.
It doesn't work out well.
I'm not giving relationship advice for sure. I'm not doing that.
You do better than me, Malaysia. I'm not married, so.
So yeah, I applied for a job in England, and I got a job in England, and moved down here. We were planning our wedding for 2 years. Within that 2 years, I fell pregnant. Oh, wow. So it was a little bit crazy. I did everything all at one time. I got a new job. I moved, started a family, and didn't have very many friends, may I add. And so that was a bit of pressure. It was all a bit crazy. But all of that puts pressure on your relationship. So it wasn't ideal, but just made it work.
I mean, that's the one thing. One of the things we have in common as well. Like, we make stuff happen, and we're
Yeah.
fighters, and we
Yeah.
always, will achieve what we want in life.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting what you were saying as well about accents, because one of the reasons why I changed my accent, especially living in other countries, is nobody would have been able to understand me, and I would have ended up with no friends. But there was another reason why I started to change my accent. I became aware, certainly, that your your accent, class-wise, can really affect your chances of getting a job, or it affects like how people perceive you. Now, when we watch BBC, we hear regional accents all the time. But when we were wee girls, do you remember? Like it was all like BBC accent, and you heard no regional accents.
Mm.
And so I just became aware, like as a survival technique almost, is if I want to come across as competent, because I always had this like fear of people thinking I wasn't intelligent. So I always tried to protect myself from that. So one of those things was to modify my accent. But the other one was because people were not understanding what I was trying to say to them.
And actually, you've just made me think a lot about accent, because my family would question why has your accent changed so much? And now that I'm thinking about it now, it's because you want to fit in and not feel different. And some people might be okay with keeping that thick Scottish accent and being different. Obviously, somehow, somewhere along it, I felt uncomfortable with that, so I felt the need for it to change, and it just has. I've adapted my accent to suit other people. That's exactly what I've done. Never thought about it like that before.
Now, I think what you said as well about fitting is really important, because that's one of the things that I've never been able to do, because like moving from Scotland to England to Spain to Hungary to Italy and places within those countries and whatever, like from when I was a wee girl, I never felt like a fit in, and I was always the outsider, and accent was one of those things that determines that. And I think it's really interesting, because the natural human thing would be to try to fit in, because we want to belong, and that is a need, one of like a need that a lot of us have. Whereas for some reason I decided to rebel against that, and I made my unconventionality, like not wanting kids, not having the same sort of dreams or conventional life plans other people had. So I sort of like made as well that thing part of my identity, and realized that I wasn't going to fit in. So why try and fit in? When people ask me, where are you from? It's like the question I hate the most. Because if I answer from the heart, I have no idea where I'm from. Like genetically, I've got genetics from Ukraine, Belarusia, Lithuania, and then Scotland and Ireland. So genetically, I'm mixed. And then you can look at the commonality. Okay, like my great grandparents met in Scotland, they, all of those things. So we could say Scottish. I wasn't brought up in Scotland. Like the last time I've even been to Scotland, I was 13 years old. Although for that time, I tried to fit in with my family, and like they would call me like Sassenach or things like this. And so it felt like it's sort of like rejection, like problems within the family with that label. And I remember that being very difficult for me. But so then, like, when you're told you're not this, you're not that, and then other people are like trying to like say, well, where are you from then? So culturally, I've lived in a lot of places, and I bet that's really helped me though, see, what was society's expectations and what I wanted for myself, and what I believe about myself, and what I believe is right, or my values, my needs, all those things, what comes from me and what came from society. So I've actually had like been really beneficial in that. But that need to fit in is so big, and that's why these pressures coming from friends, family, society, to be a certain way, to do a certain job, to live your life a certain way, can get the better of you. And that's why, I hope hearing a little bit more about our stories, what we do, and all of those things can also help encourage people a bit to question, at least, what it is that they want to do, why they want to do it, and make sure they're living their own lives for themselves, and not like lessening themselves or holding themselves back.
Yeah, absolutely. We're like going back to the the accents as well. My and they need to fit in. Both my kids have got an English accent, and we were I'm fine. And we were talking about it the other night because the football was on, and obviously they're supporting England, quite rightly so. They're living in England, and we had this whole conversation about accents, and them being half Scottish, but ultimately the teams that they support have been kind of passed on to them from their dad, because the teams from their dad was passed on to them. So it's like generation thing. I don't really have a team now that I supported, and I won't say the name of the team that I did support because we'll kind of worms about them. Back in the day, obviously, I don't really bother so much about football. So we had that as a conversation, and they were like, surely you're just looking too deeply into it. Everybody just chooses their team based upon their parent. And I was like, no, there's a few kids that don't choose their team based on just their parent. They choose it for themselves. So that I realise that's a whole other topic. But again, with this whole where you're from, what team, accent, everything, it's the fitting in, isn't it? Like my kids, if they chose to support, let's say, Manchester United, and they're in Hertfordshire, they'd pose a question why. So yeah, it's quite interesting of choices and fitting in.
And then for us, but especially for me, moving countries, you got to choose for yourself what football team to support. And that's kind of cool. I'm just thinking about that's cool. I got to choose my football.
That's quite freeing, isn't it?
It really is. Weird. Such a small thing, but
yeah. But I look at what you were saying about belonging and what you've done. I look at all the places you've gone, and I find that quite exciting. And I want to know more about all the places you've been. And I think, I look at you and I think, wow, she's had an incredible life, like all these different places, all the things you've learned, the experiences that you've picked up. I find that part of me goes, oh, I wonder how that feels.
And I think that's interesting as well, because I think we have similarities and differences, which is good because they're complementary sometimes. But it's weird as well. If we look where we started and life paths that we chose, because I love my life and I would never swap it, though it has been difficult, fitting in, no belonging, always being the outsider. And what you just said to me now is lovely to hear. But then I can go right back at you, because I look at you sitting in your massage cabin, having built your own business and having something physical and tangible that you've built and that you have. But there's a part of me that's jealous, because it's look at her, look what she's done. That is incredible. And it is incredible as well, because I know at school you had a tough time with teachers telling you what you would amount to. And things like that as well, and having that sort of same kind of feeling of being held down, pushed down, or told that you're not gonna do what you might want it to do. And so I look at you as well, of fighting against those influences early on in your life, rejecting them, and then going on to create an alternative. So that what you do is not a traditional life path. Business or anything like that, especially as we were saying, for the age, when we grew up, it wasn't even suggested. Maybe you've gone on and you've done that, and you did it as a fighter, as someone who can make shit happen.
Make shit happen. That's our mantra. We make shit happen. As you were saying about what I've done, ultimately what I'm doing now is to give myself what you've already got, which, I'm going to take a punt at suggesting freedom. I don't know if that's how you feel. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But freedom, because I've always had that niggle, and everyone around me will vouch for this. to travel.
Yeah.
So obviously I didn't do it for obvious reasons. I didn't do it when I was younger, because I did start off by taking the suggested route: get a job, get educated. I did childcare, and then kind of see where it goes, and then having a family. I'm not saying that as a negative, by the way, because I'm very happy with my family. However, I still have that niggling desire to travel. Now, if I go back to school, I remember making the suggestion, and it was to my PE teacher, just as we were like finishing school. I can't remember years and stuff like that. I would like, because I was good. I was okay at PE, so I thought, oh, maybe I could tap into this a bit more. I could be a PT, like a PT instructor. But I could do it in the Navy, because then I could travel. I made that suggestion, and what do you think happened next?
Well, I think I know the story, so I shouldn't cheat.
Okay, so what happened next was I was told immediately, but you can't do that because you won't get the grades. No, that wasn't an inaccurate thing for him to say, because I wasn't going to get my English or my maths, because on paper it was, and I still, by the way, don't have English and maths, but hey ho. So I instantly, because that person said you won't, you can't, I just disregarded it and went, okay, I need to find something else. It didn't cross my mind to try and find then another avenue, but still in my body, I've got that urge, still want to travel and explore a bit more, because the Navy and me finding a job would have given me, but everything happens for a reason, because if I had done that, I wouldn't have this life right now, which is quite a great life. But the niggle's still there, and I look at you, and that's why I look at you and I see all the travels, and I go, oh, that must feel great.
So it's really, really funny again that you're saying all that, because like we've done that sort of thing. I look at you like, oh, cool,
Yeah.
you do that with mine. And so now as well, because I've done all the traveling. I've been traveling around, changing like city, country, having all these experiences like since finishing university. And now I think, okay, where I am in Italy after Brexit, don't really have much choice. That I could now build what you have in a place, so I can build a little bit of a steady life and have my own business. So we're sort of going,
so wait, I'm looking to try and do more of what you have, travel, and you're looking so bizarre, isn't it?
By the way, me and Louise, we met each other only a few months ago on a coaching course. That's how we met. So even though that we were born 1 month apart in the same area and all these things, like we haven't met until like a couple of months ago, which is quite funny. And
we've never actually met in person.
Yes, not yet. Not yet. But we will.
Yeah.
We will.
Will it be Scotland? Will it be Italy?
But it is interesting, like how like we're sort of reflections of each other a little bit.
Yes, and so many similarities, but different in so many ways as well. Like, super interesting.
That's the fact my middle name's Louise.
Yeah, it's a good name. I guess the one big thing we've both got currently at the moment is our self-employment. And actually, I'm encouraging both of my kids. Well, I don't need to encourage, they've both naturally gone that way. So both of my kids are in the creative industry. So one has just finished uni acting, and one is going into second year of college. She's a musician in a band. So they're going to have to navigate this stuff that we're doing, being in the creative industry, which, by the way, is hugely difficult. So anybody, if you're in the creative industry and self-employed, let us know how you get on.
Another thing I think is really interesting about me and you is like we're both people who kind of want to protect ourselves and fight for survival and fight. And we're not like people who are going to give up. We're always going to fight, and we're always going to do it, and we're always going to try and make shit happen. But at the same time, because like that, what I'm saying suggests like, okay, you're a fighter, but it's also, why are you doing that? Because you want security and you want to be okay. And so what we've gone on to do with like taking those risks, because being self-employed, living in other countries, all those different things is a massive risk. It's interesting, isn't it? Those two sides. So
Yeah.
maybe it's the recipe that's got to come together. You've got to be a fighter
Yeah.
and someone with a clear idea of what you don't want, what you want, to be able to take those risks and to be able to be okay with uncertainty. And being okay with uncertainty is one of the biggest lessons to learn.
I think when I look back, it's so interesting that I didn't have a very positive experience in school, and somehow I ended up working in school. I mean, in my head, when I went off to study childcare, I had a really crappy time at school. Maybe I can make a difference, maybe put a different spin, make this negative into a positive. Maybe I had some kind of like fantasy idea of what I could achieve. And then after 21 years of then putting myself in the school environment as a early years teacher, I think I came to the conclusion that I couldn't make the changes that I wanted. I maybe made little changes along the way and impact on children's lives, which is lovely. I've got some great memories. But I think I very quickly realised I couldn't, it was too big a system to challenge, and still is. And good luck to any teachers that are trying to challenge it. When I had that realisation, I just thought, no, I want to do something for me that gives me more freedom. So this has given me much more freedom. I now no longer have to do things that I'm uncomfortable with, that don't sit right with me. I make choices based on what serves me, not what serves a system. So yeah, I think it's that key word, isn't it? You're looking for a sense of like freedom, and I felt in all of that, I felt so stifled. It was like, I think maybe I had like PTSD from school, because I was like, oh my God, it's like being back there again. It's my whole thing. So I was very grateful that my kids had an okay experience. Well, actually, my youngest, we took out of secondary school and moved into performing arts school, because it was red flags to me. He kept getting told, you're failing at this, you're failing at that, you need to improve this. And it's all negative. And I was like, he's so good at this creative stuff. We need to encourage it. But even though I was having the conversations, the school couldn't. They couldn't, because they needed to focus on maths, English, all that other stuff.
For example, though I'm neurodivergent, so I masked it. I learned to mask and I learned to cope. And I've just been fighting all my life to not let those things get in my way. It isn't the fact, I think, that people that perhaps with learning difficulties or neurodivergent or don't do well in traditional education. It's not about us. It's about the way the information is being given to us.
Yeah.
Because business studies as well, I was like one of the only people in my year or something to get one of the maths questions right. And yet, in actual math subject, I did terribly.
Yeah.
But it's a different learning style, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not good at something or can't do something.
I've spent a long time trying to understand this whole like learning styles and things. I mean, my school life was I don't have great memories of it. So just to put it like this, basically, it wasn't recognised that I did have any additional need until the end of primary school. And then they did some assessments on me, trying to work out what the needs were. But then the suggestion was, well, actually, she's not learned enough to go up to secondary school. She doesn't have the basics. So what we can do is keep her behind the year. So that was the decision that was made. I can tell you that being held back 1 year made me feel stupid. So it's almost like sticking a sign to someone's head and saying she's not clever enough to go up to secondary school, so she's here. Now, it's all for the right reasons. So that wasn't great. So then I went up to secondary school, and this is so interesting. So I was always passing my pen back and forward in my hand, so I couldn't decide. Ambidextrous, if you like. And
I am
in
left-handed.
You're left-handed.
Yeah.
Interesting. So in those days, it was just like write with your right hand. And my son just recently did a play that his friend wrote, and it was about being different, and like they kind of homed in on this idea of being left-handed and like people not liking it. And I really resonated with it. I was like, oh my God. And like my friend sitting next to me was like, yeah, you're not allowed to be different. But you weren't, that wasn't a great thing. So we were just to be right-handed. And I feel like that made my handwriting suffer. My handwriting's appalling. I'm always embarrassed of my handwriting. So there, yeah, it just had like a dominoes effect. It was just a struggle when I up, and I just carried that sign with me. I think that logo, I'm stupid. I just carried that around, and I'm not too sure if I've ever let go of it, to be honest with you. Even like when we have this conversation today, and I think at the beginning when you said about being successful, I find it uncomfortable because I'm like, can I say I'm successful? I guess.
How can you say you're not?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Like when you put it like that, it's crazy. But this is just, I guess, something that I need to learn to dispose of, that I've become. And that's what I was hoping. So I will go back. That's what I was hoping to achieve when I was like working as a teacher, early years worker teacher. But it's so difficult. It's just a battle. So yes, I'm trying to encourage my kids that it's okay to be different.
I think that's a great point. And, I hope in future episodes we'll talk a little bit more about some of the topics that we've touched upon today. And specifically as well, like some of the stuff like that you've said now is like that idea of when coaching can be useful, how coaching can be useful. And we talked about that we would like to explore the what and the why behind coaching, because it's a very misunderstood industry at the moment as well. And for me, I just know that is my passion, and I have very clear reasons of why I've chosen to pursue coaching rather than like a psychologist or any other sort of similar fields that we'll also look at as well. Like for me, coaching is the one thing that I'd like to do, but I'm really finding it difficult at the moment with that label, because I always find it difficult with labels and when I have to label myself and things like this. And I don't like the word coaching. I think it's confusing. I think it's overused, and I have a lot of problems with it. So yeah, we'll look at that more in the future, as well as those things like my issue with labeling and being boxed and fitting in and being told what we have to be, and all those expectations. So just once again, my name is Julie Blint. I'm an EMCC accredited coach and facilitator, and we have
I'm Louise Marshall, and I am a holistic therapist, also training as a coach.
Okay, see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.